Ahoy there, me hearties. This be Captain Silverhook, and you're listening to the Two Old Pirates podcast. Set sail for an open sea of stories, tales, and some really crazy stuff. I expect you to like and subscribe, lest you be walking the plank. Ha ha ha!
Hello and welcome to the Two Old Pirates. This is podcast number 98. Yes, I'm back. I've taken about 5 months off. I'm sorry that I've been gone, people. I know that you guys have just been waiting to see me again, but this is podcast number 98. It's been a while. I hope that everybody's been doing well. I'm here over the summer on my vacation off of school, and I just thought I'd go ahead and say, you know what, let's give it another try. If nobody watches it, nobody watches it, but hopefully you will. This podcast is going to be over a kind of rare thing just happened this past week in Louisiana. Louisiana passed through their House and their Senate a bill that would make it a legal stipulation for all K through 12 public schools and all public colleges to have a at least 11 by 14 poster of the Ten Commandments. It's mandatory. You have to have it. It can be even larger than that if you want to, but at least 11 by 14. Being a teacher of almost 30 years and a coach and all, I've seen it all. I've seen, all coaches and teachers should not lead them in prayer because it's against the law, and teachers and coaches kind of doing what they want and all these different things and stuff. But out of all the 50 states, even though that there's been several states that have tried to pass it through before, they've always been like checked by the First Amendment and the separation of church and state. Louisiana basically gave the two fingers and said, we're going to go and pass it anyways, and the governor signed it into law. Here, I'll show you the video right here of the governor explaining it, why, and also signing it into law.
This bill mandates the display of the Ten Commandments in every classroom in public, elementary, secondary, and post-education schools in the state of Louisiana.
Louisiana has become the first state to require the Ten Commandments be displayed in public classrooms, from kindergarten to publicly funded universities.
If you want to respect the rule of law, you got to start from the original lawgiver, which was Moses.
Okay, so that was the governor, and he went ahead and signed it into law, and that is now the law coming into this next school year for all school teachers, coaches, administrators, PE, everything. They have to have that in every single room. So we have to talk about this a little bit. Jeff Landy, who is the governor of Louisiana, is running on this, basically trying to say he's going to try to set things back in a much more conservative Christian type tone in certain ways. Right after it was passed, he joked with a whole bunch of donors for him to run for re-election. He said, I quote, "I can't wait to be sued." So he wasn't doing this just out of the goodness of his heart as a Christian, saying, I want this for all children to be able to read, yada, yada, yada. He wants the notoriety. He wants some national fame, and he's got it. Out of 50 states, only one now has made it mandatory. But it's a slippery slope, because what we've seen before, especially with like COVID and different things like that, is once a state kind of does this, other states that are like-minded that have the votes might start passing things. And so what happens is I could easily see like Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, maybe Kentucky, Nebraska, Kansas, some of those states like that saying, hey, they did it. Why shouldn't we do it? So we're going to get into a little bit in this episode about why it might not be a good idea to have it there. Now, here's the deal. I learned my first year teaching that the best way to be a teacher and educator is to never influence the students on your political beliefs or your religious beliefs. So therefore, I've had students for close to 30 years asking me, are you a Republican? Are you a Democrat? Are you an independent? Are you a Christian? Are you an atheist? Are you Muslim? Are you Jewish? Are you Buddhist? Are you Hindu? I've had them ask me everything. And I've got kids now that are in their 40s that I taught that still don't know what I am. They know I'm a Celtics fan. Congratulations, 2024 NBA Finals champions. They know I love the Ocean Blue and the Doobie Brothers, and I love my family and stuff like that. When it comes to things, I just don't talk about it because I don't want to take even a step to influence. So if you're an educator watching this, or you feel educators should be able to lead in certain ways like that, I don't do that. Not only because I don't think it's ethical, but I don't think it's right for me to go ahead and have a young mind and influence them with my personal beliefs. Because I'm just one person. That's left up to mom and dad and family and friends and people later on down the road. So Louisiana passes this to where every single classroom has to have this. But my question is, what is Louisiana really, really worried about when it comes to their students? I looked at some stats. They're 49th in education, guys. So this is dealing with education. I'm an educator, so I get kind of hot-headed about things like this. And I'm like, you're 49th out of 50 states in education. And instead of saying, we need to fund the teachers more, the schools more, the testing more, free lunch, free breakfast, better after-school care, better tutoring, they're like, let's put these 10 Commandments from the Old Testament to the Jewish people in every classroom. That is of utmost importance. I understand if you're a hardcore religious person, you might be looking at this video right now saying it's a perfect, but what I'm trying to say is if you're also 49th in every other category for education, you might also want to go ahead and spend some time and pass some bills and get the governor to sign some things into law that also help the children. Those things up on a wall are not going to go ahead and put food in their bellies when they're coming to school. All right, they're not going to help them raise math and reading scores. And here's the deal: we all prayed before a major math test. But the thing is, if you're not investing in the child in multiple different ways, you might still be getting the same outcome of being 49th out of 50 states. But if you're going to bed easier saying, well, we passed a law that made them have to go ahead and put a religious doctrine up on the wall, the doctrine that the person who passed it believes in. And that's another problem that I have with this. So besides being 49th in education, they're 48th in child well-being, as in divorce, malnutrition, there's a multitude of different things. So the thing is, they're not doing real great as a state, all right? And I'm not picking on Louisiana. I'm just trying to say, if this is this is what we did. We're going to go ahead and have a piece of paper in every single classroom that's going to go ahead and change. It's not going to happen. That's not reality, all right? It's been ranked the 50th state out of 50 states the last 2 years by U.S. News World and Report. That means they're dead last out of our 50 states. And if you've ever been to any of the states, there's all different states with all different things going on. They are 50th. 50th the last 2 years in a row. So they don't have a lot going on there. All right? I would rather be on the front page of the newspapers and on the internet and stuff saying, we've dropped teen pregnancy rates. We've dropped poverty rates. We have roads. 30% of all the roads in Louisiana are unmanaged, potholed, undrivable. 30%. It doesn't make sense that you're spending your time doing something like this to pound your chest, get a certain demographic to sit there and say, that's what we want, we're going to vote for them, or that guy, or these group of people, and you're leaving out the roads and the bridges and food and teens and you name it. In today's world, you need more than that. 25% of all kids in Louisiana live in poverty, 1 out of every 4. 80% of 8th graders cannot be proficient in math. See, these are problems that you can fix. You can try to go ahead and help people come out of poverty. You can go ahead and add extra tutoring and extra study sessions for the kids that are lacking. And when 8 out of 10 kids are not proficient in basic math in the 8th grade, that's not going to be fixed by something that you put on a wall like that. Now, here's the deal. Some of the people that asked for this to be passed and we put into law, which it has been, said it's not a religious thing. It's not. Even though it comes from a religious book, the Torah, the Old Testament from Judaism, it's not a religious thing. It's a historical thing. Do you want me to say it? I call bullshit. All right? Because last time I checked in a school, a Spanish class how are you historically having to look at the Ten Commandments? You know, when you're in a computer lit class, you're learning to diagram and make a website. How is that seriously helping you? They're also in the bottom 5 for teen pregnancies and STDs. So there's a lot of things going on in Louisiana that just aren't real good, and they're not doing a whole lot to do that. And I'm not picking on this. I'm just trying to say this could be a slippery slope where more and more states divert attention and funding from things that people need into a religious thing. And this is what I want to say to you. There are certain states that have higher populations of like Hindus or Buddhists or Muslims or any other religion. Christianity is still the top. With I think it's 64% of Americans say they're Christian. In 1976, it was 91%. It's down to 64. And if you look at what episode was it? It was episode 63, the death of Christianity. And I asked the question, is it dying in the United States? And they say that by the year 2070, they believe it'll be about 34% of Americans are Christian. So it is an important thing to Christians to sit there and try to keep the faith and the belief out there and stuff. But what I'm saying is, a state, when you impose these things upon education, I have questions about that. So my question is, if you go into a state that has a larger Muslim population, let's say there's a large Muslim population in New Jersey, New York, Minnesota. Let's say there's enough people in Minnesota that passed a bill that said that the 5 pillars of faith of Islam were going to have to be put in every single class, and the governor happened to be open-minded to all religion. Didn't have to be Muslim, didn't have to be Buddhist or Christian or anything like that. And they're like, that's a good idea. And they signed that. How would America react if every single public school, remember, public school means paid by the taxpayers, and all public colleges in the state of Minnesota now had to have the 5 pillars of Islam? Would that go over well? No. But the greatest thing about a democratic republic is how you treat your minorities. And if you sit there and say the majority of people are of this faith, so we get to go ahead and pass laws to go ahead and put what we believe is the best faith on the wall, what do you do to the minorities? I mean, would you do that to the Buddhists? Would you sit there and if the Buddhists, they have I think they're called the precepts, the 5 precepts of Buddhism. What if that happened in like Oregon or something like that, where they passed a law and they said that's going to be up in every single classroom? Can you imagine some of the people, especially the Christian people in the United States, that would freak out? They sit there and say, no, you can't do that. That religion doesn't count. To those people, it does. To those teachers, it does. To those coaches, it does. To those administrators, it does. To those lunch ladies, it does. So what happens is you're saying, no, mine is the only one that counts. And the thing is, as I've said just earlier in episode 63 also, Christianity is on a decline. You're finding more and more people say that they're agnostic or they're atheists. So what happens is we're going to have to go ahead and come to the idea that maybe pushing what you feel is the greatest thing in a public education setting is not the greatest thing. What I want to end with is we have heard over and over and over the last 2 or 3 years, especially I think it's Moms for Liberty, about that they're just trying to get elected to school boards to quit the indoctrination of our youth. As a teacher, I can tell you, I've taught with a lot of people, I've coached with a lot of people, and the last thing the majority of these people are doing is trying to say, hey kids, don't listen to mom and dad. Trust me, I'm going to lead you straight. It doesn't go that way. Are there people? Of course. There's going to be people that are stupid and they say, you should like the Cowboys, or you should like macaroni and cheese, or I'm this, and that is a person who's not being professional. Sadly, that's a person who's not being professional. But the thing is, are you indoctrinating people that are not Christian by having to go into a classroom every single day and see a poster of the 10 Commandments? I know. Some of you are going to sit there and say, what does it hurt? And I'll just flip it back on you. Like my dad always said, play the devil's advocate. Why would it hurt you if next to the 10 Commandments we had the 5 pillars of Islam and the 5 precepts of Buddhism and the teachings of the Hindus and of Native Americans? Would that be okay? Is that all right? Because that's not in this bill that they passed in Louisiana. What they passed in Louisiana was only the 10 Commandments can be shown. And it can be shown, and it has to be shown in every single classroom, every single building. Now, I could be anything out there. You know, I could be a diehard Christian. I could be a diehard Muslim. I'm just trying to say you have to look at both angles. And as a public education person, you know, they always say two things that you don't talk about is religion and politics. And this is religion and politics mixed. And they're forcing every single school to have to do this. And that's something I don't like. That's indoctrination. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's you pushing an issue, forcing an issue. And what I'm trying to say is the same people that argue that you can't indoctrinate our children, you're indoctrinating our children, take these books out of the library and stuff like that, they're now doing the same thing because that's what they want. So, anyways, I'm Eric for the Tool Pirates. This is episode 98, the 10 Commandments in Schools. And I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and peace. Glad to be back, guys.